Hello, my dear professionals. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I will discuss what are some type of companies that you must avoid as a HR if you want to see real growth in your HR career. By real, I mean you will get a richer profile if you avoid these kind of companies. And I'll also talk about what kind of companies you should choose instead. But a little disclaimer here that whatever I'm suggesting here is applicable when you have a choice. You got a choice. If you're sitting at home and you're not working anywhere, any job that comes your way will add so much of experience in your portfolio. So try to implement these suggestions when you have a choice and when you are consciously trying to choose companies or trying to apply for the companies where you want to grow more, want to learn more. So if you avoid certain type of companies and choose the other one, you'll grow immensely in your HR career. With that note, let's get started. And the number one on the list is avoid massive services companies. Now, these companies are not bad. There's nothing wrong with them as such. But when as a HR you join these companies, you get very limited exposure as a HR. What happens in massive services companies is that employee count is really huge. There are millions of people working there. So they have a separate department for each little activity, or I should say each little task. There will be one team which would be just doing the offer rollout. You'll be, if you're in that team from morning to evening, you'll be just rolling out the offer letters, maybe hundreds in a day. I'm not exaggerating. That's actually the count for some companies, services companies. When hiring is in full-fledged, whole day you'll be just drafting offer letters. How mundane that can be, if you just imagine. And for every little other task, there will be one dedicated team which would just call out the candidates to check their availability. There will be other team which would be just scheduling the calendars with the hiring managers, nothing else. There will be another team which will just focus on employee engagement. There will be a separate team for exit interviews, separations, exit, all of that stuff. So when you join such teams, you just get that tiny bit of exposure. You'll be only limited to that particular department and you will not get exposure to the entire HR profile. So it messes up your growth, your learning curve. Say, for example, if you joined this company and you stayed there for 4 or 5 years. So for 4 or 5 years, what you did was just tiniest fraction of the HR task. Another reason why joining these companies messes up your growth is because you do not actually realize what you like doing. Because the profile is such, you have been doing one simple task from morning to evening. So obviously you'll start hating that task because nobody can do the mundane task for a longer period of time. So eventually you'll end up hating that task and it will register in your mind that you do not like rolling out offers or working on offers. And then when you meet somebody else, a peer from a different department of HR who is doing something else, maybe employee engagement, and when you talk to them, you speak to them, you feel like, oh, their task sounds really fun and looks like I'll be interested in that profile. And even if you end up moving in that role or that department, what will happen? You'll again be doing one single task from morning till evening and you'll again get frustrated and you'll feel like, oh, this is also something that I don't like. So eventually you'll end up hating the HR profile itself because slowly you'll feel that everything that you try to pick up, it just doesn't work out for you. You start hating it. But the real reason why you're hating it because you're doing one task at a time from morning to evening for God knows how long, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. So obviously you'll get bored by it. Obviously you'll get frustrated doing it. So it's not really the HR profile that you're hating. You are basically hating on a particular task that you got to do like for entire year from morning to evening. So instead, if you expose yourself to a richer HR profile where you got to do like variety of things, that will give you a real scenario of what you actually like doing and what you do not like. Now, second category on the list is avoid joining the companies which outsource their employees as HRs. As in, say for example, you're working in Infosys, but you are a payroll employee of some XYZ company, but Infosys is your client side and that's how you're working. Now, the problem with joining such companies is that you will have an identity crisis. You'll feel you do not belong anywhere. Your parent company, which runs your payroll, hardly cares about you because You do not work there, you do not speak to people there on day-to-day basis. You are just a resource on their list, because of which they are earning a commission, and that's how their business is running. So for them, you're just a resource on the list. And on the other hand, the company where you're really working, you're putting in the hours, you're going there every single day, 9 to 5, there also you'll not feel like you belong there 100%, because for that company you are an outsider, you are working on a third party payroll. You'll never be 100% HR there. You'll not feel belong there. You'll not get 100% access to all the tools that the company is using. There will be something or other which will be hidden from you, or of which you do not have access to. You'll have to depend on somebody else to get the tiniest of the details to do your work, day-to-day work. So that will frustrate you a lot. And no matter how good you are as a HR, you will never be invited for the strategic part of the work. Your inputs will not be taken simply because you are from a third party, and you'll be always seen as an outsider. And when you move up the ladder, it's very difficult on these kind of roles to move up in hierarchy, because you'll not get exposure to the strategic conversations, and you'll not be the part of discussions where things are actually done from scratch, where policies are discussed, where frameworks are discussed, processes are discussed. You'll simply not be invited in those conversations, and you'll feel out of place a lot of times. Plus, you'll not get the salary hike that you deserve. Now, obviously, there will be a merit increase, and you'll get some percentage of the hike, but it will be at the mercy of your parent company. Now, the client where you're working, in this case, as I said, Infosys, if Infosys decided to give you like a 15% raise, then you might end up getting only 7%, because the rest 7% your parent company took as a cut for their commission, and you would never know. You will think that Infosys gave you just a 7% hike. So that's how it is. That's how it works. Working in such kind of companies for a short duration, say for example 6 months, 1 year, and especially when you know why you are joining and why you are getting here, and you have further plans, you know that you are not going to be here for more than 6 months or a year, then it's fine. When it's a part of your plan, you know why you're doing what you're doing, then it's fine. But otherwise, if you are like casually switching your companies, give it a thought, and if there's a choice, do not join such companies. Now, next are the companies which outsource their whole HR department itself. What's the problem with these companies? Now, these are not the same companies as we spoke earlier. Those were the companies which outsource their employees as HR resources. Now, these companies are companies where they have outsourced their whole HR department itself, and you'll just find there 2-3 HR people. Maybe HR head is a permanent employee, and the whole other HR department, which is actually executing the operations, is outsourced to some third party, and only like HR head and 3-4 people are there in HR department. So what's wrong with these companies? Why you shouldn't join, or should prioritize less, I should say, is because these companies are the companies which do not see any value in having a HR team. That is the prime reason they have outsourced it. Of course, HR team is a support function, but it is very essential for a company. So the management which does not see any value in having a full-time HR team, or which do not want to invest in HR resources, then you can imagine what kind of mindset they have. People in that management do not see any value, absolutely zero value they see in HR resources, and you are going to join them. Even if you're joining them full time with a hope that you'll grow in that company, then that's the biggest mistake, because they will treat you as just as a postman. I mean, they'll convey something and then you'll convey to the third party and the work will get done. You'll not be invited in the conversations, important conversations. If you want to contribute something as a suggestion, as advice, or maybe you want to implement something new, that will not be welcomed, because these management people have their own ways of working things, and they will just enforce things on you, and they would just want you to act as a postman and not use your brain. That's how, I mean, they work. So if possible, try to avoid such companies for your own good, because you'll never be able to grow in such scenarios. You need to be part of those conversations where policies and processes are discussed, where something new, where there's a scope of implementing something new, so that you can use your skills and you can grow as a HR person. Now, the next category of the companies that you should avoid is the companies which are getting acquired. Now there are very slim chances that the company which is getting acquired will hire somebody new, but still I still wanted to mention this point. Is the reason why you should avoid these companies is because the company which is acquiring this company will always have an upper hand, and they will not value the HR team or any support team of that company. No matter what, no matter how good you are, no matter how resourceful you are, they are not going to value your skills, because they have their own HR team, they have their own support team, so they will look into the growth roadmap of their own resources. They'll not care about the resources of the company which they are hiring. I know it sounds rude, I know it sounds like isn't fair, but it's true. It's true. It's hard truth. As a HR, I'm telling you from my own experience, because I've been through those situations, scenarios where the companies were getting acquired. And if you're working in a company which is about to be acquired by another company, then please, for God's sake, plan your exit well in time. Do not sit in a hope that, oh, they might not terminate you, or they might not terminate the HR resources of the company. Sooner or later they will. Maybe they will not immediately. Yes, they will say a lot of positive things, and they'll promise that all the jobs are safe and all of that stuff, but a lot of things gets changed over time, and as and when that progress happens and the acquisition comes into its full swing, everything gets changed. Even the people who promised you all of that stuff, they will also go and leave the companies, and with them all the promises will also go. So please make sure that you plan your exit well in advance. And there's another benefit if you plan your exit well in time, in this case, or you have another offer in your hand. Then in that notice period, or whatever time you have with that company, you can actually use that time in learning so much stuff about merger and acquisition that it will give immense experience and richness to your profile, because there's a hell lot of things that happens in merger and acquisition, and HR especially have a lot of insights into those transactions and that information which is floating and how people are reacting to everything. But you will gain that experience only when your mind is free of the thought that what will happen to me, what will happen to my profile, or will they remove my profile altogether, will they terminate me, or my promotion was due, will they give me the promotion. Only when you're free of all these thoughts, you will be able to learn what is actually happening in that scenario. It's a mess. It's always a big mess, I know, but there's so much to learn from it. And if you really want to make use of that amazing opportunity, then first you should plan a plan B for yourself, and then jump into this mess to learn as much as you can before you leave. And believe me, it will leave you with so much of wisdom, so much of knowledge, so much of behind the scenes which you could never learn otherwise. Now, there's another point I want to mention, very important. It is not related to any company, any categories of companies, but still it's very important for you to know that do not niche down initially in your HR career. If you just narrow down to a very tiny little role that you'll be just a scheduler or just a sourcing person who's just sourcing the profiles whole day, you are just doing the employee engagement, then it will be very difficult for you to grow in a wider role. If you start from a wider role, then it will be easy for you. Once you have experience into everything, you have experienced the entire HR profile, then maybe you can niche down basis your interest, because you have now experienced all the tasks, all the functions of HR. Now you can make a choice. Oh, I only like training and development part of the HR, so let me just narrow down on that thing and become a specialist into training and development. Then you can choose like this. But if you do otherwise, then it will be very difficult, because you'll be tagged with that specialization and you'll get very less chances to experiment with other things, other roles. So try to find out jobs which have richer responsibilities in the job description. You can clearly see from the job description itself what is mentioned, how much responsibilities, tasks, duties are given in the job description. From that itself, you can conclude whether the job role is richer or it's not. In the job description just says that you'll be a training coordinator, which has to just collect the training feedback and block the rooms for the trainer. Then that's about it. That's what you'll be doing from morning to evening, maybe a year or 2 or 3. So instead of that, choose roles which have variety of tasks under HR profile. for example, profile of HR operations, HR executive. There can be a different name, but the job description will describe the real part of the job. And if there's no job description, then you can ask from the HR or from whomsoever you are interacting, ask for it shamelessly. It's your right to have the job description beforehand. Otherwise, you land up in a role which is doing no good for you. There's no use of moving in that role, even if the CTC looks good, because that will look good only at that point. It will limit your growth, and the next move will be very difficult for you because you'll not have any exposure, and that experience will not be counted much. So you have to decide for yourself. So try to choose roles which are richer, which are wider, which offer exposure to a wide variety of tasks under HR. So with that, we came to the end of this video. I really hope it helps you somewhere in your career. And if there are more topics on which you want me to create videos on this channel, so then please feel free to suggest that in the comment section. And I will catch you in my next one. Till then, stay safe and healthy. Take care. Bye.